Hello everyone, welcome back to Yearbook. This is part of your independent study this week for those of you who are joining us this year for the first time. So what we really want to do this week is talk to you about what Yearbook is, what goes into it, how we make it, and give you some ideas and examples on how to do that. So the first thing that I just want to share with you is a quote by Brene Brown. She's one of my heroes. And talking about vulnerability. Vulnerability is not about winning or losing. It's about having courage to show up when you can't control the outcome. And boy, is that more relevant than ever this year. We have no idea what's going to be happening week to week. This is the first time ever that we'll be starting your book virtually. So I thought this was the perfect quote because we need to have some vulnerability and courage to build this together and to count on each other to do so. I also love this quote that Denzel tweeted this past week. When you are in a dark place, you sometimes tend to think you are buried, but perhaps you have been planted. So just more of the glass half full kind of scenario. Excuse me. Okay, so here's our process this week when we talk about coverage. We want to identify our yearbook theme and then who our audience is. Then begin brainstorming related ideas that cover our target audience and who that target audience is. From there, from brainstorming ideas, we then move into story angles. And then once we narrow down our story angles, we then assign those to you and we begin our research through our background finding, our interview process, getting photographs, and the start of our design. So the first thing that we really need to do is identify our theme and our audience. This year, our editors have chosen the theme We Are Connected. Now they can speak a lot more to this and will do so in some of our live sessions, but for the purpose of this and kind of keeping it short and sweet, this is our theme, we are connected. So we want you to think about ways that we are connected this year, especially with a lot of disconnect. Think about images and colors that relate to connection. You might think digitally, you might think about connection cables, like on the screen, you might think about like a web of connections, a Wi-Fi connection. So those are gonna be kind of some of our staples that we're gonna use in our visual theme. So we're going to talk about visual and verbal connections, but just kind of keep some of those in mind. And if you have ideas that you can think of that we have not presented to you, remember that you have a voice here. And just because you weren't part of the initial creation of the theme doesn't mean that you cannot advance it for us. So if you have any ideas, feel free to talk to our editors during the live session. Our target audience, you guys, think about it. Who buys the book? Well, mostly parents, but our main audience is our students, our Mattia community, and especially our seniors. Most people tend to buy their senior yearbook if they haven't even bought them in previous years. So that's just something to think about. All right, so moving forward, what do we cover? There's no hard and fast rules about exactly how to handle coverage. The basic model is this when creating a yearbook, because what this does is help us uphold journalistic integrity and student interest while meeting kind of equal coverage for all the parts of our school community. So think student life. These are activities both in and out of school that affect readers' lives, academics, sports, what that's going to look like this year. We know that's shifted a ton. People, student, faculty, staff portraits, personality feature stories, and then our clubs and organizations. Okay, so this is like the basic model, but it can fluctuate and it can change based on how exactly we handle our coverage. Now this is where it gets a little bit tricky. It's going to take you a little bit of time in your book to really understand how this is going to work, but we're going to break it down for you, okay? So this is a sample 124 page book. We actually have a 240 page book, but I'm just going to use this example for traditional coverage. Think of it this way. Based on what we showed you with the percentages, this is the traditional breakdown for our book and how many spreads are dedicated to each of those parts that make up our school community. Okay, now obviously that shifts because we have a 240-page book, and even today as I'm talking to you guys, that's not definite. We still as a staff need to talk to our yearbook rep to decide, hey, is a 240-page book feasible this year, being that we're starting later, we're in the midst of a pandemic. Are we going to still be a spring release? Are we going to move it to a summer release book to give us a little bit more time? So all of those things kind of get factored into this concept. Okay. So let's roll with this. It's a 250-page book, which is basically what we do. This is using, instead of traditional coverage, like student life, academic, sports organizations, they use chronological coverage. This particular book organizes by season. And this is what we've done in the past. Okay, so we dedicate so many pages to summer, so many pages to fall, so many pages to winter, so many pages to spring. Within summer, like what do students do that summer? Within fall, what fall sports are happening? What fall academic things are happening? What fall activities are happening? Homecoming. So think about the book being broken down by season and what happens with those seasons, okay? Then what would happen in this book is the dividers, the sections of the book would become thematic related to whatever your theme is. So last year's book, if you got it, you know that it was called Revive, and it was broken down by season. And we looked at different ways we had revived ourselves without the year, okay, or throughout the year. Okay, this year, you guys, this is us. Our book is 240 pages. We are going to cover, not traditionally, not chronologically, but thematically. And the reason for that is there's so many moving parts this year and so many things that are changing from day to day. We don't know if we're going to be remote till only October 30th. That's the plan right now. We could be remote till the end of first semester. We don't know. Things are changing rapidly. So being that things are constantly changing, we think the best idea for our coverage for this year is to break our book into parts thematically. So we want to think about sections where we play off the words we are connected. So maybe we have a section that's called connected. Maybe a section is disconnected. Maybe another section is reconnected, and that's like post-COVID and when we're all together, or the team photos and the senior superlatives and like all the stuff where we come back together as a whole group. Different ideas that might break down within those sections, like connected. Let's think, how are we connected these days? Well, virtually, social distanced. What do our sports currently look like? Disconnected. Okay, what are we missing in communication right now because things are so different with the pandemic? What sports have had to shift to different seasons and feel disconnected? Football, for example, is not taking place in the fall. It's going to take place in the spring. So guys, this is going to look very different. We've never done a book like this. I'm super excited that this is our first time building a book like this because we have the capability and the opportunity to do something that we've never done before and to also increase our journalistic value of our book to our audience. Additionally, when covering like this, we are going to do something different called it's going to be called a blended coverage, meaning in the past years, we broke down sections, in the fall, like you would have one whole spread dedicated to football, one whole spread dedicated to homecoming, one whole spread dedicated to soccer. Here, we're not going to be doing that. We're going to be thinking of related topics that are related to the connected, the disconnected, the reconnected, and then see how those would all fit on similar pages. So it's going to make sense when you see some examples coming up, but for now, just keep that in mind that we're going to be breaking the book down into sections and then covering thematically. So what's next? Okay, this is where I stop talking and I hand it over to the amazing experts. Like, I'm your expert in the room, but these people are even better than me. What I'm going to have you guys do is to watch 2 virtual sessions here. It'll take total about 55 minutes. You could break it up. You could do one this week on Tuesday, one this week on Thursday, or actually in our case, we're Wednesday and Friday, or what are we? remotes, we are independent learnings. You're going to do it on your independent learning day, but you can break it up into parts. And at the end, what I want you to do is to come to class on Friday when we're all back together live with some ideas to share out in teams for our book this year. So again, we know you're new. We know that this can be a little bit confusing at first. But after going through this and seeing a lot of the examples, I think you're going to have a lot more confidence and you're going to have ideas spinning in your head that we want you to contribute to and have a voice and a big part in creating this year book this year, because it's going down in history, guys. We've never done anything like this. So you're going to watch the beginning coverage. You'll start at a minute 51. That's about 30 minutes long, and then you will then watch the advanced coverage, which starts at about 1 minute, and that'll take about 25 minutes or so. So keep that in mind. Take any notes that you feel like you need to. Jot down any ideas that you like, that inspire you, that you think are cool, that maybe you might want to try, and then come ready to talk about it on Friday. All right? Happy learning.